Tom Hanks wrote it. Tom Hanks directed it. Tom Hanks cast himself in a supporting role specifically so he wouldn't overshadow the people he'd spent months trying to find. And the song at the center of it was chosen from over 300 submissions by a 28-year-old bass player who entered on a whim and got it right almost immediately. That was That Thing You Do. A film that arrived in 1996 was quietly ignored by most people, rescued by a cable channel that ran it for 24 straight hours and has been gathering admirers ever since. Today, 15 facts about That Thing You Do. From the casting search that almost ended before it started, to the Apollo 13 Easter eggs hidden in every character name, to the bonus that reveals what the extended cut added that nobody talked about for years. Stick around. Fact 1. Tom Hanks wrote the screenplay during a press tour, on planes and in hotel rooms. The screenplay was written while Hanks was at the peak of his career. 2 consecutive Academy Awards, Philadelphia in 1993 and Forrest Gump in 1994. Rather than take a break, he started writing during the Forrest Gump press tour, using every free hour in hotel rooms and on flights. His wife read the early drafts and teased him that he had too much going on, like Scorsese run amok. The idea had been sitting with him for years, a fictional one-hit wonder band from Erie, Pennsylvania, and the brief arc of their rise and disappearance. The press tour gave him the concentrated time to finally get it out of his head and onto the page. Fact 2. The title song was chosen from over 300 submissions, and the winner had entered on a whim. The contest was open to submissions, and over 300 were received. Publishers had told Adam Schlesinger, a 28-year-old bass player and member of Fountains of Wayne, about the opportunity. He worked for several days on 3 versions, recorded a demo, and sent it in without particular expectation. His song beat every other entry. When the band and producers listened to the submissions, each had a different style. Some like The Who, some like Zeppelin. Schlesinger's arrived and was immediately different. Actor Ethan Embry said it was so exciting he smacks his hands together just remembering the moment. The song received Academy Award and Golden Globe nominations. Schlesinger died from COVID-19 in April 2020 at 52. Fact 3. Tom Everett Scott almost didn't get the role because he looked too much like a young Tom Hanks. Hanks hesitated over Scott for an unusual reason. Scott looked too much like a younger version of himself. He worried audiences would find it distracting. The decision changed when Hanks's wife watched the audition tape. She told him, "He doesn't look that much like you, and besides, he's really good." Hanks called Scott personally to offer him the role. Scott, who had grown up watching Hanks on Bosom Buddies, described it as one of the coolest moments of his life. During the audition, he had told Hanks that Guy Patterson was parallel to him, in music instead of acting. That sincerity made his wife's argument impossible to dismiss. Fact 4. Charlize Theron was discovered during a meltdown at a bank, and Hanks saw it immediately. In 1994, Charlize Theron was 18, had abandoned a dancing career after knee injuries, and was in a Hollywood bank trying to cash a check from her South African account. The teller refused. She lost her composure. Behind her in the queue was talent manager John Crosby, who had once discovered Rene Russo at a Rolling Stones concert, watching the whole thing and handing her his card. By 1996, Theron was auditioning for That Thing You Do. After her audition, Hanks said she had it, that the girl was going to be somebody. He wrote in her personal copy of the script, "No matter what, I will always claim to have discovered you." She won the Academy Award for Best Actress for Monster in 2004. Fact 5. Nobody in the band could play their instrument, so they did 6 weeks of band camp. With the exception of Zahn and Embry, who had some teenage experience, none of the band members were musicians when cast. Tom Everett Scott had never touched a drum kit. Jonathan Shaich couldn't play guitar at all. 6 weeks of intensive rehearsal followed, 5 hours a day. By the end, the cast was convincing enough that extras believed they were actually playing live. In reality, they were miming to recordings by professional session musicians. Scott later joked that having to hear the same song that many times meant the band got more tired of it than anyone else ever would. Fact 6. Steve Zahn showed up not knowing whose film he was walking into. Zahn's manager asked him to drive into the city for a script reading, gave him a fake name for the writer, and said nothing else. Zahn assumed it was a low-key, no-name project. He walked into the room and Tom Hanks was sitting there. Hanks later said Zahn had delivered the performance of ages and made him laugh his head off. The casting director had seen Zahn in a stage production alongside Ethan Hawke and believed he was perfect for Lenny. Zahn sealed his role before registering whose movie he had just auditioned for. Fact 7. Every character name in the film is a hidden reference to Apollo 13 or the Beatles. Hanks embedded a layer of personal tribute into the names that most viewers never noticed. Jimmy Mattingly is named after Ken Mattingly, the Apollo 13 astronaut pulled from the mission due to measles exposure. Lenny Hayes takes his surname from Fred Hayes, the Apollo 13 lunar module pilot. Hanks's own character, Mr. Amos White, is named after Andy White, the session drummer who stepped in for Ringo Starr on the Beatles' original recording recording of Love Me Do. Even the astronaut played by Bryan Cranston in the film's television showcase is named Gus Grissom. The film is quietly a love letter to two obsessions at once. Fact 8. Bryan Cranston appeared in the film, and the Mr. White connection runs deeper than most people realize. Cranston appeared briefly as astronaut Gus Grissom in the Hollywood television showcase sequence. In 1996, he was a working television actor, known for playing Dr. Tim Whatley on Seinfeld. The cameo went largely unnoticed. Hanks clearly noticed. 2 years later, he cast Cranston as Buzz Aldrin in the HBO miniseries From the Earth to the Moon. Years later, Cranston became internationally famous as Walter White in Breaking Bad. Hanks plays a character named Mr. White in That Thing You Do. Whether the naming connection was intentional has never been confirmed. It remains one of television history's more satisfying coincidences. A song chosen from 300 entries. An actress discovered during a bank meltdown. A lead actor almost passed over for looking too much like the director. And Apollo 13 hidden in every character name. We're not halfway through. Still coming, the iguana incident that sent Ethan Embry to hospital, the Hanks family members hidden in the cast, and the bonus, what the extended cut quietly revealed about Mr. White that nobody talked about for years. Fact 9. Tom Hanks wrote 2 of the film's songs himself and never mentioned it. Hanks wrote the film's opening number, Loving You Lots and Lots, credited to the fictional Norm Worster Singers, a parody of early 1960s AM radio soft music. He also wrote Guy's jazz drum solo piece, I'm Spartacus. Both appear in the finished film. He never drew attention to this. A man who had won his second Best Actor Oscar 2 years earlier quietly composed 2 original pieces of music for his directorial debut and said nothing about it publicly. Fact 10. 3 members of the Hanks family appear in the film. Colin Hanks, then 18, made his film debut as an NBC page who escorts Faye to her seat at the television showcase. Tom's daughter Elizabeth appears as the bored girl in the dress shop. His wife, Rita Wilson, plays Margarita, a cocktail waitress at the Blue Spot Club where Guy meets musician Del Paxton. Colin went on to build a substantial career in Fargo Dexter and elsewhere, but the Tom Hanks film was his first screen appearance. The family's collective presence either reflects an inclusive production philosophy or suggests that Hanks operates a very efficient household. Fact 11. Ethan Embry gave an iguana mouth-to-mouth and was hospitalized with dysentery. An iguana named Salvador became ill on set. Embry, unwilling to watch the animal suffer, attempted to revive it with mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. A few hours later, he was seriously ill with dysentery. The production laid cardboard from his trailer to the shower to help him manage. He was wearing his red costume trousers when the worst of it occurred. Costume designer Colleen Atwood, a 4-time Academy Award winner, later noted that Embry was not the first actor to have ruined a costume in that particular way. The iguana's fate was not recorded. Fact 12. The Playtone record label in the film became a real production company. The fictional Playtone Records, the label that signs the Wonders, became a real entity 2 years after the film's release. Hanks and producing partner Gary Gutzman launched Playtone as an actual production company in 1998. It went on to produce From the Earth to the Moon, Band of Brothers, The Pacific, and My Big Fat Greek Wedding, among others. A fictional record label invented for a film about a one-hit wonder band became the production infrastructure for some of the most significant American television of the following 2 decades. Fact 13. Sean Penn inspired Hanks to direct on Halloween night in Washington, D.C. One Halloween in the 1990s, Tom Hanks went trick-or-treating in Washington, D.C. with Sean Penn, Robin Wright, and Arnold Schwarzenegger. During the evening, Penn, who had recently directed The Indian Runner, told Hanks that every actor should direct at least once, just to understand how hard the job actually is. Hanks took the advice seriously. 2 years later, during the Forrest Gump press tour, he began writing the screenplay that became That Thing You Do. A conversation between 2 actors in Halloween costumes, somewhere in Washington, D.C., was the beginning of his directing career. Fact 14. VH1 running the film for 24 straight hours rescued its reputation. That Thing You Do earned approximately $25 million at the American box office, well below studio expectations. The film could have quietly disappeared. Then VH1 ran it for 24 consecutive hours in the late 1990s. People who had missed it in cinemas discovered it on cable. The film found its audience through repetition rather than its original release. One cast member later said it took on a life like nobody's business. The cast reunited in 2017 to perform the song live. The film that underperformed commercially became one of the more durable crowd pleasers of its decade. Fact 15. The extended cut added 39 minutes and a revelation about Mr. White that Hanks never promoted. In 2007, Hanks released an extended version running 39 minutes longer than the theatrical cut. One significant addition, a scene revealing that Mr. White is gay, with his partner Lloyd played by former NFL player Howie Long. The scene shows Guy returning to the hotel and finding Mr. White and Lloyd together. Hanks did not publicize this. The detail stayed largely unknown to general audiences for years, sitting in the extended cut, accessible only to viewers who had sought it out. Many fans who loved the theatrical film have never seen it. And now the bonus I've been saving for last. The bassist has no name. He is listed in the credits as TB Player, the bass player. He has no romantic subplot. No arc, no moment of revelation. Lenny guesses his name might be Tobias. It isn't confirmed. He plays his bass, contributes to the ensemble, and at the film's end, ships out to Vietnam. This was deliberate. Hanks built the character as a comment on how musicians in one-hit wonder bands are treated as replaceable, present in the frame, but peripheral to the story. But the Vietnam detail does something else. It is the film's quietest acknowledgement that 1964 had a shadow over it that the pop songs didn't address. The bassist exits the story, not because the band broke up or the label dropped them. He exits because of where young men were being sent in 1964. That Thing You Do asks you to have a wonderful time for 90 minutes. Most people do. The bassist is there to remind you, very quietly, that not everyone in the frame got to keep having one.